Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, we could really use your help. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, recently named the Two Opinionated podcast one of its top 100 podcasts. This is a monumental feat for this program. You know, we're a father and son team out of a small town in West Virginia, have been doing this for about 5 years. There's 15 million podcasts out there. About 40,000 of those get to the point that they're listed on IMDb. Out of those 40,000 out of the 15 million, we were ranked number 82. Something that we're just immensely proud of. We're so thankful for our listeners, our watchers, our fans. Thank you so, so much. If you would like to help us out, and we're asking for it, please. It's easy. It's really easy. It's free. If you go to IMDb, that's imdb.com, look up Two Opinionated Podcast, and just take a look at the page. That's all you have to do. I mean, you're welcome to look at the cast, look at the episodes so you can kind of see who's been on the program. Do whatever you want. But even just bringing up the page, imdb.com, Two Opinionated Podcast, bring up the page, look at it. That helps us so much. So please, if you can do anything, we would really appreciate that. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Love to have your subscription there. It's also free. And you can also check out our website, meistercon.com, where you'll find almost 700 episodes, audio and video, available on there. There's also a terrific blog from Brett, and it'll let you know anything that we have going on in studio, if we're covering a convention, if we're going on location, anything that we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so, so much. We appreciate you so much. I can't express enough how appreciative we are of all of you. We never expected to do as well as we have, and that's all because of you. Thank you so much. Enjoy that interview. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Opinionated. Super excited today. I've got comedian Patrick Hakeem with me. So welcome, Patrick.
No, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here, man. Thank you.
Comedian is not an easy profession. What made you want to get into comedy?
Oh man, I was always like intrigued by it. When I was younger, I was really mesmerized by Eddie Murphy's Delirious. Like I
Oh
thought
my
it was the
God.
funniest thing I had ever seen in my life.
Pretty
And
damn
then
funny.
I was always having a good time in school. I always wanted to make people laugh, and which I got into a lot of trouble in my youth. And yeah, it was like it's something I always wanted to do after I saw it for the first time. So I just didn't know how I was gonna do it when I was a kid.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that makes sense. It's Delirious. I still remember going. I was in my early teens, and I took a date like an idiot to the because I had no idea
Yeah,
that
you're like,
it was
because I'm
going to
sure
be
you
a
saw
little
him, Eddie
blue.
Murphy at SNL, Eddie Murphy, and you're like, this is gonna be amazing, and you just had no idea what he's gonna say up there, and you're like, wow,
It was amazing,
yeah.
but it was a little embarrassing as a young teenager with a date.
I guess my delirious story is funny. Is I come from I'm first generation Canadian. I come from immigrant parents, and I just was at the video store, and I must have been like 8, and I was a fan of Beverly Hills Cop,
Oh
and I
yeah.
just saw him on the cover, and I'm like, this is what I want to rent. And we used to have like they used to have their own TV, and they would make us watch TV in another room, whatever movies we wanted to watch. So they had no idea what they rented for me, and I was like, this it just opened Pandora's box.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What was the next comedy album he put out?
Raw.
Raw. That one was even worse. You'd
Yeah.
think I'd learned my lesson with Delirious, but I was back there for Raw. And
You're like,
I'll
I'm gonna
say
take a
worse
new
has
date to
been,
Raw.
yeah, rough with, as a young teenager, but awesome. It Raw is
Amazing.
probably still like the comedy one that I remember the most from the 80s because it
Yeah,
made
yeah,
such
yeah.
an impact. I love Delirious. But Raw, I was a little bit older, so it hit a little
Hit
different.
more, yeah. I got you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. Robin Williams at the Met was pretty great back around that time too. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, but
That's the one where he's getting pulled over by the police and he has weed in the ashtray and he starts eating
yeah,
it because he doesn't want, yeah, that's a very funny one. I love that one as well.
that was always my favorite. Tim Allen's early stand up, I think, was surprisingly hilarious.
I
If you've
mean,
never seen him do stand up, funny.
people like to make fun of Tim Allen or if being a Tim Allen fan, but this man's stand up was so good that he got a sitcom out of it.
Yeah,
Like that's why he got the sitcom, and that sitcom was super successful. Whether
number
people
one
want to
show
admit it
for a
or
long
not
time.
anymore. Yeah,
Yeah, it was big. It was big. So you decided early, like most of us say, I'm going to be a ball player or something when I grow up. And then we end up doing something completely different because life gets in the way. But you
right.
stuck with the comedian thing.
So I started with a comedian and I wanted to be an actor.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I got to be honest with you, it took me a long time to get to that place because I was having I was a little bit of a troublemaker, a juvenile delinquent when I was a kid. I was like you ever see Welcome Back, Kotter?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so pretty much I was a sweat hog. I used to go to a special class with other special guys, and we had a teacher that he'd let us call him Frank because he thought that was better than calling him Mr. Capoletis. And yeah, so I
I
had
mean,
like
that sounds like a sitcom.
yeah, it was. And yeah, so I was kind of like between my late adolescence to my 20s, I was doing the wrong things. I was partying, I was going out, I was working at the wrong jobs, and I finally made the commitment to do it in my early 30s. So I was like 31 when I started in 2010.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're like me. You got a little bit of a late start.
I'm a late bloomer.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't start podcasting till I was in my late 40s.
That's awesome. I love that you're doing it.
Yeah, it's by far the best thing I've ever done. There's a lot to be said for doing something that you enjoy as opposed to doing something that you have to do.
Absolutely. And I think like when you I think there's something to be said is when you have life experience and you fail at things that you don't want to do, or you put yourself in situations that you think you need to be in that make you unhappy. Once you start doing the things you're supposed to be doing and you feel that glee and happiness from doing it, it's infectious, and you start realizing like you're starting to have the best life you were supposed to have
Right.
because you're doing the things that are true in your heart.
Yeah, I love that, and that's so true. It's what you realize once you start or you're doing something that you really love. Nothing else matters as much. It doesn't matter as much the money that's coming in. Of course,
No,
you need some, but
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
priority. Yeah,
But it becomes addictive. That feeling becomes addictive of self-fulfillment and self-enjoyment, and you become addicted to doing it.
yeah, that's truth. I completely believe that. Yeah, I did call centers for 20 years and never really enjoyed it. Yeah, I'm like that. If you remember that old commercial where the kid like climbs his way to middle management, that was me.
Oh,
And I wasn't happy with it. We started podcasting, my son and I, and I haven't looked back. I
that's
gave.
all. So not only do we share the same time zone, but I spent many years as a call center manager.
Oh yeah.
And I was a call
No.
center manager at a really young age, like in an inappropriate age. Like I was 19, 20,
That's
leading a
young.
cast of 20 guys, asking them about their sales per hour. And I was making more money than I understood at the time that I didn't appreciate.
That's right.
And yeah, and when you give a 20-year-old kid who grew up poor money like that, he's going to make a lot of mistakes.
Well, you always assume that you'll always make like you assume this will be the least amount of money I'll ever make.
Oh yeah, that's it. You're like, I'm gonna always make more than this when you're making it. You're like, oh, I'm starting off good. It's gonna only get better.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't always work that way.
No. I learned that. Trust me.
So what was it like the first time you decided to get up on stage? Because I'm guessing you did it more like an open mic night somewhere or something. What was that like?
So I ended up signing up. There's a place in Montreal that's not open anymore. It's called the Comedy Works. I'm originally from Montreal.
Yeah.
So I ended up signing up. They had an open mic night called The Boom. And The Boom was not only an open mic, it was a competition for you to win a guest spot on weekend with a headliner and everything. So the first time I went up, the audience had to vote on paper. There's like 100 people there, who their favorite comic was. And in my first performance, I ended up winning that open mic
That's
to
awesome.
get the guest spot, which like you would think it was a great start, but that weekend was my second and third set, and I ate it all weekend. Like I bombed, crickets, nothing. So I had my highest of highs in my first set, and then the second and third set, my lowest and lows, all in one.
What was the difference? Because was it the same material or were you trying
It
something
was the
different?
same material, but I don't, like I think at the time it was like basically I was nervous. It was a weekend. I maybe I was off a bit. I never opened a show. I felt the pressure of, because
Yeah.
you get the guest spot. You're going up after the host. And then and then like the host did okay. And then I was like, oh no. And then I felt, and I was like nervous. Like the nerves got the best of me, but it's really funny. I always laughed that I experienced the highest and lowest within a week, but I was still addicted. Like I wanted to do it more and more and more.
Well, so when you had difficult sets, does that make you want to get right back up there, or do you need like some time away and then try it
No,
again?
no, no. Like so now my batting average is a lot better than it was. Like
Right.
I've been doing this for 14 years, but like you get obsessed and you really get like it's like obsessive and compulsive, because I, I know guys that are amazing. I can have an amazing set. 30 minutes were amazing. And then that one joke that didn't work. And I'll
Yeah.
go home, white knuckling the steering wheel, being like, what is wrong with that joke? And I'll become obsessed with fixing that joke. And it's the same thing. It's like when I used to bomb, I needed to get back on stage to redeem myself to myself. And then,
Right.
but I think bombing is the best thing for a comedian, because it first of all, it gives you rhino skin. You become tough, and you stop caring a little bit.
Yeah.
Comedy is a fine line between caring and not caring all at once. And when you bomb a lot, you're okay with it, and you're comfortable with the silence, you can dig yourself out of that hole. And you learn a lot from failing on stage. It teaches you different things. It teaches you to recognize different types of audience. Maybe the material you pick, like if I have a joke about pornography, and I tried to do it at the old folks home that booked me and it didn't go over well, then I'm like an idiot. Like, why would I do these jokes for this crowd? So it's like you learn things like that help you recognize. Like you could look at an audience, you can feel an energy after a while and recognize that kind of audience, and start doing like quick math on stage to like, oh, these are probably the jokes they're gonna like, and try to deliver that. And most of the time now it works out for me.
Do you worry at all about the person that's going up before you? If they go up and bomb, does that worry you, or if they go up there and do great, does that worry you?
It doesn't bother me where they mom or good anymore. I've become comfortable in my skill level that I know I'm gonna have a decent set.
Yeah.
Also, there's people that crush before, like if you, it could happen that somebody crushes so hard before you that the audience has climaxed now.
Right.
And what happens is you get up on stage, and whether you like it or not, people have decided that now they need another drink. Now they want to go to the washroom after they've. It's like having sex and they're smoking a cigarette, right? And you're just this guy that's come in to fluff the room now. It happens, but if you're experienced, you could learn how to decompress the situation and get them on board, to have them really be with you by the end of your set, depending on how much time you have on stage.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I always think of that Seinfeld episode where he's got the comedian coming on after him, but he keeps killing it, and then everybody's so happy that the comedian after him does well, even though his stuff's not very good. So
Yeah,
then
yeah,
one time he gets tired of it, and he just goes up there and intentionally bombs.
right.
And then that just so happens the guy behind him suddenly has his best set and ends up getting a TV show out of it. You know
Yeah,
that
but
thing.
that's it. That is hilarious. I mean, like, I have a lot of all my good friends have become comedians, but we're all trying to make it hard for each other. It
Yeah.
is like a brotherhood where you're like, hey man, I'm not doing you any favors, you're not doing me favors. Go try to kill as hard as possible. And it's understood.
Yeah.
So those fears that I used to have when I was younger, they're not so much instilled in me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's experience. You know,
Right,
you do something
exactly.
for 14 years, you're going to be a little more
Yeah,
comfortable.
yeah. You'd be a little like,
Well, you would hope.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
How do you handle hecklers? Do you ignore them or do you engage?
No, you can't ignore a heckler. Like, you can't pretend they're not there. A death to a comedian is somebody who is not present in the room that they're in performing.
Right.
So if something, look, every comedian has a set list. Every comedian has their go-to jokes.
Yeah.
The thing that's like jazz in a comedy show is the audience. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to have a bachelor party that's had too much to drink and
Right.
they're 30 guys deep and they've taken over half the section of the show and they're rowdy. And look, the thing is like, this is what I say is like, your job is to make people laugh and to entertain them. And the best way to go about these things is to be funny, quick, in and out.
Right.
We're all human beings, though, and there are days where we are not having the best day, and you get on stage, and every comedian has snapped on stage and made it really weird. Okay, and that's also, it's not good because then the audience pulls back as a whole when the comedian snaps stage. So you got to look like you're having fun
Right.
while it's happening. And then, like, at the end of the day, there are people who get really too drunk, and that is the job of a comedy club to recognize that and to send their doorman, who's
Yeah.
imposing size, to be like, all right, buddy, get out of here. And I've had it where I've been so charming with them that now audience members are turning on the hecklers,
You're right.
and I'm
That's the
like, oh,
best.
now this guy wants to beat the shit out of you. I go, I got nothing to do with it. And I remember once there's this super drunk couple, and they were so obnoxious, and they were interrupting from the beginning of the show till I got there. And finally, the doorman had enough, and the establishment had enough, and they pulled them out. And it was so funny. As they were getting kicked out, the audience broke into that song that when people like at sporting events, na na
Yeah.
na 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 na, and it was one of the I was just laughing on stage because I didn't expect the audience to get so creative and behind. They hated them so much that they sung them out of the
Hey,
room, which was
people are
amazing.
paying good money. They don't want to deal with that either.
Exactly. I mean, the comedy show's expensive. $30 a ticket. You're
Yeah.
buying your girl drinks. That's like $100 night right there. You definitely want to enjoy what you paid for.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And you got some knucklehead screwing it up for everybody. And
Yeah, it's the
sometimes it's
worst.
funny. Sometimes it's funny when the comedian can kind of put somebody in their place or whatever. But most of the time, it's just an interruption. You just assume
Absolutely.
just not have that.
And what's crazy is a lot of hecklers, the ones that aren't so aggressive, that kind of peep in here and there,
Yeah.
they come up to you at the end and they're like, I loved the show. And you're like, you talked to me the whole time. And I swear to God, they're like, oh, I thought it was helping. And like, no, I just wanted to do my jokes missionary style. I stand up there, I tell my jokes. You just sit, you like them or not, you just sit there staring at me, and then I go. That's it. Like, I go, and then
It's a contract.
oh, I didn't know that. And it's always funny. They apologize, and I'm like, it's not a big deal. But it happens where they come up to you, they've had the best time ever, and they interrupted you the whole time.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I know people like that. They're just kind of oblivious with the effect
Absolutely.
that they have on people. They think they really think that they're just helping out. So what was how'd your family and friends take to you being a comedian when you were first starting out?
So my friends encouraged it. No one was surprised. My mom still has not seen me in 14 years. And
Can't
she
come
like
to a show yet?
so my mom's like an Ecuadorian woman. She's Latina, and she just like you understand. Like for her, she's like Patrick. I always wanted you to be a doctor. I want you to be a scientist. I'm always like, you wanted me to be a doctor when I was drinking Elmer's glue in grade 1. Like this is what you thought I was gonna be. Like you really, this is what? So, uh, my
Expectations
family
were a little
supports it.
high.
My cousins that are around my age, their kids, they love it. They come out to support me. My friends really enjoy, like they come out to a lot of shows.
Yeah.
That I have a very supportive group of people that have always been rooting for me. So when I go back home to Montreal, uh you know it, I'm blessed to sell a 200 seater for and
Yeah.
people will come out to see me. If I'm booked for a weekend at a comedy club, like for 5 nights, every night will be filled with people who knew me growing up, or for my whole tenure in Montreal. So it's really nice to see people come out and support me whenever I'm performing over there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And as a parent, you just want to make sure that your child is doing something that they can make a living on.
Right. So
That's
my mom is happy about that, but she's like, I don't think she ever has an idea. Like, she's like, so you bought the car with the jokes? And I'm like, yeah, yeah. I bought the car with the jokes. Yes.
you know, when we first started this podcast, I tried to get my parents to listen, and I got the same answer every time: is we talk to you every day. Why do we need to listen to a podcast? We talk to you every day. I'm like, I can't argue with that.
They're like, no, you're it's
I was
very
like,
good.
okay. So you've got your debut comedy album coming out.
Right.
That's I mean, that's kind of incredible. How did what's it called? How did that come about?
So my album is called Misnationalized, because my whole life I grew up in a very predominant Italian neighborhood in Montreal, and
Yeah.
people always thought I was either Italian, Greek, or something Mediterranean. I always joke around, like they're like, I don't know what that guy is, but for sure he likes to dip bread in sauce 100%, whether it's hummus, tzatziki, or marinara. You give this guy bread, he'll clean it better than the dishwasher, killing that ramekin dry. And I'm half Syrian, half Ecuadorian, which is half Middle Eastern, half Latino. So it is like a weird mix. So I called the album Misnationalized. And yeah, basically I was overdue. I've been holding on to my material and not wanting to make an album for a long time. Some people do it 3 years in, 5 years in. I waited 12 years till I recorded my first
Yeah,
album.
that's a little bit of weight.
It's just like I'm old school, and it's like it had to be like I got really tired of my old hour, and I was like, oh, now it's a good time to put that on record and put all those jokes to away. They're done.
They're done.
And I was lucky enough to there's a Canadian record company called Comedy Records,
Yeah.
and they produced it for me. So they recorded it, and then it's coming out April 5th, which I'm stoked about because it's also my favorite weekend of the year, WrestleMania weekend.
I know.
WrestleMania
It's crazy. It's WrestleMania time already.
it's well, I love that it's WrestleMania. It's a WrestleMania weekend, April 5th, Friday. It'll be featured on all streaming platforms. So anywhere from Spotify to Amazon Music, you can find it and give it a listen.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I'm
That's a
very
big
happy.
deal. Yeah. How's mom gonna take that when you say, "Hey,
Oh,
mom"?
she's proud. Like she likes my record cover, which is like it's basically I'm a big action figure guy. So I printed some t-shirts. I'll show you what it's like. So it's just like that.
I
That's
love
the
that.
the record, the cover of the album.
You got the
And
interchanging hands, and that's
yeah,
cool.
exchanging hands, exchanging heads.
Reminds me of the old $6 million man toys.
Man, $6 million man, sick. Okay, don't let anybody tell you different. I love Lee Majors. Okay, you don't you.
I
Yeah.
know. I grew up on Lee Majors and Lindsay Wagner.
So I used to watch $6 Million Man like because I'm like mostly a child of the '80s. But Fall Guy was my jam.
Oh, Fall Guy was a great show. I'm surprised they haven't tried to remake that yet.
I think that
Did
there's a
they?
new Ryan Gosling movie called Fall Guy, and I was wondering if it's the same Fall Guy.
I bet it is.
Yeah,
Bet
I
it
hope.
is. I bet. Yeah. How it has to be. I'm sure that's a
Yeah,
remake. Yeah,
but that
they're
was a
just
great
making
show.
it
But
into a
yeah,
movie.
so I'm excited about it. It's a new chapter, and I've already like I recorded the album in November 2022, and it took me forever to mix it because I got to listen to myself, and I got to be honest with you, there's nothing more I hate than listening to myself. It is like torture. Just hearing my voice, I'm like, that's what you sound like, and I'm like, these
Yeah.
people are laughing. Everybody's an idiot. Like, but I got through it, and yeah, I'm already excited because I've already developed a new 20 minutes of a new act, and now I'm excited about this new material that's come out in the last 2 years, and I'm hoping to develop that into an hour quick, a lot more quicker than it took me the first 14 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's a big deal to retire jokes.
Yeah, it
You
is, man.
that's it because that's what you rely on. And who knows with the new material, it'll go great. But it has to be a little nerve-wracking to switch out jokes. That's kind of
You know
scary.
what? Like, I'll be honest with you, it's healthy for you to switch out jokes because it's like keep saying the same jokes over and over. After a while, you feel like a phony. It's like
Right.
you get sick of yourself saying the same thing over and over on stage. And I think it and all comedians, whether they like to admit it or not, that will lead you into like a creative rut, which will make you a little depressed. So pushing yourself to create more material, new material, to take chances on stage, these are the things that are going to make you a better comedian. These are the things that are going to make you a better performer. And you know, material comes and goes, but you being true to yourself and trying to push yourself to be more creative, that's what you got to stick with,
How do
in my
you?
opinion.
Yeah,
Humble opinion.
that makes sense to me. How do you?
Mhm.
How do you joke right? Do you just kind of when something strikes you funny, you write it down, or do you sit down and be like, okay, now I'm going to write jokes?
So
How do you?
sometimes I have like ideas for my comedy comes personally from like my personal experiences
Mhm.
or dislikes or stuff like that. So what will happen is I'll have an idea and I'll write it down, and like I'll write it point form, like something like this, like a little paragraph. Then I'll take that paragraph and I'll bring it and go to as many open mics as I can.
Yeah.
And that will help me put my joke together, and it'll help me build on that. And then when because I'm the type of person, like if I would write what I thought was the idea of my joke on paper, by the time I brought it to stage and hammered it out for like 2 months, what I had on paper would not be what was the end result from me
Right.
working it out on stage so much. So I don't tend to write down word for word my joke because I'm not a setup punch guy. I'm more of a storyteller. So my
Right.
stories get better the more I tell them on stage with a live audience.
Yeah, I kind of love that too because um, comedy, similar to music, has a rhythm. And if you don't
Right.
get the punchline rhythm, especially right, the joke's not going to work.
Yeah, 100% right.
And the same thing, if you're telling a story, if you're not putting the emphasis in the right place, or if you're not telling it right, it's not going to come across the way it should.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm with you there. If not that I could be a comedian, but if I was, that's how I'd have to do it. It's just
Good.
repetition, just constantly just kind of tweaking it until I got it right.
Yeah, that's the way I do it, man. It's not everybody's got a different way, but that's my way.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's pretty good. There's a in May in LA, they're doing something where they're taking a like most of the venues within LA and it's going to be a week of comedy. So like every comedian you could think of
Is
is going to
that
be in LA.
Netflix as a joke?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah. Yeah.
massive festival.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Which
Have,
them making that festival, I think really gave Munch the Just for Last festival, which was like the most. I think it really gave them a huge blow in Montreal, because now, before the agents and everything would go to Montreal, but now that they have a festival in Los Angeles, they don't have to go anywhere anymore. They just
right.
drive up Santa Monica Boulevard and be at and see all the newest comedians. So it's
I
like,
mean, isn't that always the way it works? Is you got something that's working good, and then somebody else like, oh, I'd like to try that too. And then
like,
next
why don't
thing
we
you know,
just
you're
do this
like,
in
where'd
Los
everybody
Angeles?
go?
Yeah. So yeah, that's gonna be the now I would have to consider that, like, as it's becoming, that's slowly becoming the number one comedy festival in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. We're my wife works for Live Nation, so we travel quite a bit, and I'm
Oh,
usually
that's
just kind of
amazing.
yeah. She's been there for 25 years, and I just kind of tag along, because I can
Nice.
podcast anywhere, so I just tag along. But this May we're going to be in LA to
You
bounce
should
around to the different.
interview more comedians while you're out there.
Yeah, well, that's the plan. That's the
Good.
plan. I've been lucky enough to have a few on, but I'm a big comedy guy. Like I'd rather go see a comedian than a musical act. Although I love music too, but
Yeah.
that's just I love to laugh. There's nothing better than going to a show and just losing your shit because
Well, it's
something catches you as funny. That's the
at the
best.
end of the day, it's like it's a cathartic experience, right? Like you're releasing this emotion, and it just it feels good. And when a whole room, that energy of everybody laughing together is infectious,
Yeah.
and you leave there feeling high, and you haven't done any drugs, and it just feels everybody feels amazing.
That's it. That's the best. I was out in Vegas for New Year's and saw Rich Little, who I've always been such a big fan
That's
of.
amazing.
And
I
he's
love
still
Rachel.
funny as all get out.
Is he still the master of a million voices?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Now,
love that guy.
admittedly, most of them are not current voices.
No, I don't care they're not current. Like, I want to hear, like, if I go see Rich Little, I want you to do Johnny Carson
Exactly.
big time. I want to hear your Johnny Carson, Rich Little. I don't
That's a good
want you to
one.
do new guys. I want you to hear the guys that when I was a kid and I used to watch you on these late night shows and I wasn't supposed to be watching you. I want to see you do that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And which is mostly what he did. I mean, he did basically every president from Kennedy.
Yeah.
You know,
He's very good.
yeah, and they were all pretty spot on. But yeah, most of his stuff was from the 60s, 70s, 80s. And I was fine with that. I knew all of them. My wife,
Yeah.
there was some, she's a little younger and she didn't catch all of them. But yeah, he's still pretty sharp. And he's got to be 80.
80.
Yeah, he's
Good for him, man.
pretty good.
I didn't even know he was still performing, but that makes me happy.
I didn't either. We just happened to walk into the hotel, and that was the sign that was there, and I was like, "Oh, we got to go see that." Yeah, he's
You're
here.
like,
We got to go see
this
him.
is it. We're done. We're seeing.
Well, I dragged last time we were in Vegas, which was a few years ago. I dragged her to sings Dalka Shane.
Oh,
Wayne Newton.
Yeah.
Wayne Newton. And because I
You're in
told her,
Vegas,
I was like,
Wayne Newton's there. That's like
yeah,
1,000% you have to go.
you have to go. So I told her, I was like, he's not going to be doing this much longer.
No. You
got to go see these.
1,000% have to go.
Yeah. And it was pretty great. And there was probably only 20 people at the show.
That sucks.
Well, it did, but he performed like there was, 20,000.
Good for him.
And he spent a little bit of time with basically every person. I mean, those guys know how to perform.
He's always been my favorite odd bad guy in a movie. He was in The Adventures of Ford Fairlane with
I remember that.
He's the record company owner that's the bad guy. He's amazing in that movie. I don't care what anybody says.
Terry Hatcher was the female lead in that movie.
No, it's not Terry Hatcher. It's the girl from Dumb and Dumber, the redhead.
You're right.
Yeah. What's her name? Lori, I forget what her name is, but it's her.
Yeah. I'm thinking the other one that
Tango and Cash.
Yeah, maybe it was Andrew Dice Clay and the female.
Oh, yeah, that's like first of all, let's face it, like Andrew Dice, his best movie was Ford Fairlane.
Oh,
And
God.
then he had all these other weird ones called like Brain Smasher and like these direct to video. I've seen them all. I used to just spend my
No,
time at video stores renting
he had
odd
a
stuff.
show, like a sitcom, come out on Showtime or something a few years back.
Oh, yeah, where he plays himself.
He plays himself. It was pretty funny.
It's amazing. He's amazing. Like I know people like to crap on him, but that guy's had a longevity for over 30 years, and he keeps doing stuff like he was amazing. Like he was on Entourage for a bit too, and he was
Yeah.
amazing in that.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. He's funny.
Oh
And
yeah.
when I was younger and stuff, his type of humor, we just thought it was the best.
Oh
It
yeah,
just,
of course. Well, it's like this guy
yeah.
saying the crazy, like it was crazy what he was saying.
Yeah, no, we'd never heard anybody get up there and just, say whatever was on his mind.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Do you remember the first joke that you told on stage that got a laugh?
Yeah. I had this this joke I don't do. I had a joke about it was basically about like how it was an impression of men being as baby crazy, how creepy it would be if men were as baby crazy as women when they see babies they don't know on the street, and like, oh my god. I did like this impression. I was like, I do. I'm like, who's this little guy? Oh yo, can I hold him? And I was just like, and it was just like, it was so creepy. I was like, can I put his foot in my mouth? And everybody's like,
That's
oh,
funny.
sir, you've got to give us.
That's funny, but you see women do that all the time.
But that was my first joke.
That's funny.
And I used to do a joke about how I'm a big comic book guy.
Me
and
too.
I used to joke about how like I don't like wearing comic book t-shirts anymore because other nerds cock block me at parties and will start talking to me about the shirt while I'm talking to a girl. And I'm like, you're killing me, bro. You're killing me. But yeah, these were my first jokes.
My back in the 90s, I owned a couple comic book stores. That was my
That's awesome, dude.
yeah, that's how I paid my way through college. Best time of my life, just the best.
You
But
still collect?
now I do, but it's more selective.
Yeah, so you're like,
no, I was like big time collector, and then I took my personal collection and kind of turned it into a comic book store. But then once I sold everything
above me, but
oh my gosh, there you go. Marvel went.
That's not my wife's favorite section of this office.
It never is.
How much. No.
Marvel went bankrupt in '96, and I panicked. I was like, it's over.
That's true. I remember that. And then Image came out.
And so I sold everything that I have. Well, since that time, I still collect. I buy stories that interest me, but the collecting bug that I had growing up was kind of broke that when I sold everything. But it was the best time, and I brought it up because my wife, my current wife, she went on the first date that she had with her ex-husband was at my comic book store. She's a little bit younger than me, so she was still in high school. I was, in college. But he brought her to the comic book store. That was their first date. And then years later, both of us got divorced. I know. We both got divorced. Several more years went by, and we started dating and ended up getting married. We've been together now for 19 years. But I always thought that was just a weird, fate or whatever.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Throwing us in each other's path, even though, we didn't even notice each other.
No, exactly. But that is insane.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of a cool story. And then it ended up her ex-husband and my ex-wife both live like down the street from us. Not together, separately.
No, that's still crazy.
They're right there. And it's crazy, but when the kids were younger, it made it a lot easier trading them back.
Of course. It's not so bad when you have kids and you're like, you know what? You can go to mom's house now.
But I remember, my ex-wife, she asked, she's like, is that going to be a problem me living down there? I was like, heck no. I'm like, that's going to be so much easier.
Help with these kids. We need to help each other still. Let's keep it going.
Well, that's kind of, if you get divorced and there was no kids, no harm done. Go your separate ways. You got kids, you're stuck together.
100%.
Forever.
I know.
So you might as well make the best of it. Hey, Patrick, thank you so much. This has been the best. So the comedy album out April 5th, Misnationalized. What's it?
Misnationalized.
Yeah, I love that name because you know exactly what you're talking about immediately.
Yeah.
You know,
I made up the word, so
yeah, that's funny, and you do have that kind of look like you could probably be from like 10 or 12 different places.
1,000%.
Yeah.
You're like, people are like, hey, is this guy Greek? I'm like, yeah, right here. Pass me a souvlaki. Like, let's go. It's all good, buddy.
Yeah, that's pretty great. So a couple of things, Patrick, before I let you go. Anything that you're working on beside the album that we can keep an eye out for?
Basically, I'm working on getting my own visa. I hope to spend some time in the United States in the
Gotta get
future.
you out for the Netflix thing.
Yeah, please, let's hook that up. And then I'd like to spend some time in the New York comedy scene. It's always been a dream of mine.
Yeah.
And I'm working. So this a little backstory on me is I've had a lot of odd jobs. One of the oddest jobs I ever had is I was a script writer for Brazzers.com. So I'm trying to develop kind of so the offices are in Montreal, and I kind of want to develop a kind of a story about my youth, kind of like a TV show about like my time while I was a script writer, and it involves my family, and they're super like Catholic, and it's like it's a comedy, it's a dramedy, I would say.
Would that if that gets made and maybe you get a part in it, would that scratch your acting itch?
That would scratch my acting itch, but I would have to be honest and to be true to myself. I'm like 45 now, and the character is like in his late 20s.
You'd have to play like
to play like his manager or something like that. You
you'd
know
have to play a different
his
character,
co-worker, somebody else. But yeah, I would. Yeah, if I could, 100% I'm in. I'm like, I'd also like a part in this.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a big part, just something.
No, just something, just a little
cameo.
Something. Absolutely.
I think that'd be great. Yeah, hopefully you get to do that at some point because that'd be awesome.
I hope so too, man.
It'll happen. Hey, you got the right personality. You'll somebody's gonna be like, yeah, go ahead.
They're like, here, man, just take.
It'll either do that or you'll get it like a comedy special on one of the networks or something. Or
I'll tell you something is I'm staying true to my art, and I'm working as hard as possible always. So whatever happens, I'm grateful for it, and I'm still gonna keep doing it regardless of expectations.
Yeah, I tell you what, that makes it a lot less stressful because you're putting all that extra pressure on yourself to be whatever. You just kind of like, I'm going to work hard and see what happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay, Patrick, last thing, where can we find you on social media?
So you can find me on Instagram at Patrick Hakeem Bro, one word. On Facebook, I have a Facebook fan page called Patrick Hakeem Comedy.
Yep.
On Twitter, I'm He Enjoys Pizza.
I like that.
I have a TikTok. I'm really bad at it. The one that I do the least. I think it might be an age thing. The fact that I'm like a late Gen X guy.
Yeah. TikTok's hard.
TikTok's hard. It's too relentless, and it like just being on it makes me sick. But but yeah, if you want, I'm also at Patrick Hakeem Bro on TikToks, and I do post clips if that's the way you want to follow me. But please do follow me, and please, April 5th, stream the album, give it a like, give it a listen, share with your friends if you like it, and yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed myself.
Oh, you got to come back when the next big thing comes out. You got to come
1,000%.
Yeah, have to. I'd love to at some point. I tell my wife that all the time because she's in Canada quite a bit. I'm like, I got to go up there with you. I've been dying to go to Toronto. One of these times, I'm going to catch a show. I'll find you.
If you come to Toronto, you let me know. I'll give you the VIP treatment. You, your wife, we get you tickets. Man. You come. And then I also recommend 10 of my favorite restaurants that you'll enjoy.
Oh, now you're talking my language. That's why we travel. We just like to eat.
I know. We only travel to eat, really. You're like, yeah, this is a nice Picasso, but where is that pasta al forno? Yeah. Where is that? Yeah.
We plan trips around places we want to go to eat, and then we'll go and say, well, what kind of shows and stuff do they have?
Yeah. What museum is this for this 800 BC? I guess I'll see this.
I guess I'll see this, but what's for dinner?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Patrick, hold on one second. How much fun was that, Patrick Hakeem, and the album is Misnationalized, and it's out on April 5th, next Friday. He's hilarious. Do yourself a favor, check out his comedy. I'm such a comedy fan. I can't wait to get to LA in May and check out some of the comedians. I just have a blast. I never sit front row because I don't like to interact. I'm an introvert. I get nervous when people try to talk to me in those situations, but I love being kind of middle of the room and just watching a really good comedian. It's the best, and I think Patrick is well on his way to establishing himself. He'll have a Netflix or a streaming special at some point. I have no doubt. But first step is the debut album. So let's help Patrick out and download that, check it out. He's got some funny stuff. He's a really, really funny guy. If you're finding us for the first time, so happy that you're here and would love to have your support for us. Today, we put out episode number 751. Been at this for a little over 5 years. So it's fairly high volume. You can see you can watch or listen to all of those on our website, meistercon.com. So please check us out there. If we have anything going on, we'll let you know. If we're covering a convention, if we're doing something in studio, if we're going on location, anything that we've got going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. So please check us out there. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Please subscribe. Really helps us out, and it's free. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Till next time. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm once again here to ask for your support. It's been a big year for the Two Opinionated podcast. Back in February, we got to live out a dream, moderate for William Shatner here in our hometown. In May, we passed 100,000 downloads on our YouTube channel. And we followed that up in June with 50,000 downloads on the audio side. We recently posted our 600th episode, which is pretty good volume for just a father and son operation. Not too many podcasts can keep that volume up. We've been doing this now for 4.5 years, 600 plus episodes. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a really big deal for us because we've always gotten the views, but have struggled to get people to subscribe. So that 1,000 was a big deal for us. And best of all, we were recently named one of the top podcasts on IMDb, which is the entertainment database. Those that are ahead of us, we came in at number 82. Those that are ahead of us are bigger companies like Disney, mostly Marvel, and Joe Rogan, that type of podcast. So for us, being just a small West Virginia father and son podcast, to be in the top 100 out of 15 million, it's a pretty big deal for us. So thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Got a couple little ways, though, that you can help us, and they're free, and they're really easy. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, please go to YouTube. It's under MeisterCon Pod. Just hit subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Really helps us a ton. And maybe even more important, if you could go to IMDb, imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and just look around the page. Just having that traffic on the page really helps us out. So that's a couple easy ways that you can support us, even if you're not listening or watching all of the time. And we want you to listen and watch, because I think that our guest list, I would put up against anybody, any other show, podcast, anybody out there. I think our guest list holds up. So please check us out. You probably will find somebody that you like, or maybe somebody that you didn't know you liked, but kind of discovered them on there. There's tons of that. If you're into music, we have that too. If you like books, we've got authors on there. If you're more into what goes on behind the scenes in the entertainment world, we've got producers, directors, video artists, anything you can think of that happens behind the scenes, we've had them on the show. So definitely check us out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.